considered to be enemies of the state. The priests usually were not executed, at least not in the way that the Jewish prisoners were. Instead, they were worked to death. They did hard labor. They were used for medical experiments. They were starved. They were tortured and beaten in the most inhuman ways imaginable. But in the middle of this nightmare, there was one inexplicable saving grace: the Mass. While the Polish priests were denied even the most basic rites, the German priests were allowed to say daily Mass. The prisoners converted a cell block into a chapel. They made their own vestments. They even built their own monstrance for the Blessed Sacrament. One priest wrote after the war, "In addition to our simple wooden monstrance, we had another one for important feasts. It sparkled like real silver, yet it had been made from empty tin boxes." An Austrian communist prided himself on the fact that he had made this monstrance secretly in the workshop under the eyes of the SS. Solemn divine services were forbidden, but so was every form of religious activity outside the chapel. During the day, no one was permitted to enter the chapel. But the chapel contained the Blessed Sacrament. And often prisoners would risk their lives to go there secretly and pray. One of them was Father Marcel Posecznik, a Polish priest who survived the camp and was able to describe what it was like. "I participated every morning in a secret Mass and received Holy Communion," he said. "3 times I celebrated Mass for my colleagues before our liberation. I even made visits to the Blessed Sacrament, reserved in the German priest's chapel, but you had to tell them the password. One time, I remember, it was lux de lux, light from light. And so it went until the camp was liberated in 1945. Those men risked their lives to pray before the Blessed Sacrament. They faced torture and persecution and degradation for a sliver of communion. And they did it for just one reason. They knew that this was more than bread. This was Christ. The one who had climbed Calvary was with them in their own Calvary. He shared their suffering. He brought them grace. He gave them hope. And in the darkness, there was light from light. And just as he was with them then, he is with us now, here, this day, in this tabernacle. It is a gift beyond measure, a gift to die for and to live for. But do we even grasp that? Do we even realize what is being placed in the palm of our hand or on the tip of our tongue? Nearly 2,000 years ago, just a century after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the great Saint Justin Martyr wrote about how the faithful received communion. And they did it then the same way we do it now. They make of their hands a throne, he said. They make themselves ready to receive a king. We cannot forget that. Every time we come forward for communion, we are standing in the throne room of the King, and he is giving himself to us. Here